We are live. What is up, fight nerds and dirty gamblers? I am Erik, and this is Erik Bets Fights. It's Thursday night, y'all. That means it's party time. It's time to do big money bets. You know, the fights are about 48 hours away. We've gotten through the part of the week where we put the smart bets in. As our homie Lou Betya said in the chat a week or two ago, he said, I'm not here for smart bets. You know, so what we're doing on big money bets, we're trying to find some big money props and parlays. I guess you could say we're trying to dig through the dumb bets and find the smart bets inside of them. We're trying to find the diamonds in the rough. But yeah, we're all about those low percentage, big payout bets here on Big Money Bets. I'm going to do a little bit of a recap of last week's show. I don't do like a real detailed recap on this show, largely because, like I said, it's a lot of low percentage stuff. So, you know, some weeks there's a good chance it's going to be like, hey, we didn't hit anything. And that just seems like a negative foot to start it off on. So, but we actually did pretty okay last time. One thing I need to do, I bring a guest on this show every week. I need to start tracking my guests' bets as well, so I can give you a recap on those if they do well. I haven't been doing that yet, so I don't know how my guest from last week did. But so what we do on this show, we give you a 2-leg parlay, a 4-leg parlay, and a 6-leg parlay. I did hit the 2-leg and the 4-leg, and I hit 5 legs on the 6. So my full 6-leg parlay ended up being Tyson Pedro, Archie Lang, Jessica Andrade, Macy Barber, Charles Jourdain, and Marcin Prachniow. So Prachniow lost the 6-legger for us. But and then we also give out 6 big money props on the show. And I actually had 2 of my props from last week hit. Tyson Pedro by KO in round 1 at plus 500. We hit that one. And Claudio Puelles by sub in round 1 at plus 700. So those are some of the like smaller money props, of course, because we get way up into the plus 2,000 and plus 5,000 and that kind of thing sometimes. Those aren't going to hit too often, but luckily we did hit a couple of our props. So yeah, looking pretty good. Hopefully we can have similar results with this week's card. Obviously, we're going over UFC Vegas 53, headlined by Rob Font and Marlon Vera. Like I said, I do bring a guest on the show every week. I'm going to bring my guest in just a moment here. I'm going to let him talk a little bit more about, obviously, the podcasts he does and kind of his involvement, but I'm going to let you know how I got to know Christopher Negron a little bit. I was a fan of a podcast he does called the MMA Archive, and I'll let him tell you about it, but it's right up my alley if you know the kind of stuff that I'm into as far as my MMA fandom. And so I had listened to his show a little bit, and I didn't know the guy at all. I just shot him a message on Twitter one day and said, hey, man, I really like your show. And he said, well, why don't you come on and do an episode with me once? And I wasn't expecting that at all. You know, I wasn't like digging for that or anything. I was just letting him know I thought his show was cool. And he invited me on and we did a show together. And we've done a couple episodes together now. And we just have a good rapport. We have a good chemistry, I think. When I'm doing a show with Christopher, I sort of forget that I'm even doing a show. And then I remember like, oh, I'm on camera right now. I wonder if I was like picking my nose or doing anything weird, because I just get comfortable and sort of forget what I'm doing. But anyway, folks, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring him in right now. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Christopher Negron of the MMA Archive. How's it going, Christopher?
It's only right I start the show off in the way every man should. So,
yes, he's got the, for those of you who watched the show before, it's turned into a thing. Lou Betya did it the first week. He used a stemmed glass, and now it's just been a thing every week. So Christopher comes with his stemmed glass. I appreciate it, man. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thank you so much for the awesome intro, man. I really appreciate it. Like you said, it's always a pleasure to do these podcasts with you. Always find ourselves just going on tangents, way off the rocker, which you love. Just talking about this crazy world of MMA. There's always a lot of things to talk about. So, as he mentioned, I got the MMA Archive going on. It's really exciting. Every week I try to look back into the history of MMA as well as look forward. So lately, I've been doing a lot of recap shows. And that's been exciting, looking at the more recent events. But once I'm all finished up with my LSAT, which I got planned and coming up pretty soon, once I'm all done with that, I'm going back to the original show as well as the recap shows. And that's the MMA Archive, where I go back in time and watch in chronological order all these MMA events. I'm going to be including UFC, Pride, even the old Bellator, Strikeforce eventually. So excited to go through all of that. And it's by the date. So it's not by just organization. It's by when it actually happened. So I get a little bit of a historical context of what happened back then. So excited. Can't wait to get into these parlays and plays, man.
I love that, Christopher. I love that you're going to be going also into Pride and some of the other organizations and doing it chronologically rather than like getting through one organization and then another, because then it kind of gives a flavor of like what was actually changing and what was happening in MMA at the different times. And yeah, I was a big fan of what Christopher was doing with the MMA archive, because those of you who've watched my stuff for a while know I'm a huge fan of the old UFCs. That's really how I became a fan, was the real early days. And I've watched those old UFCs so many times that sitting down and watching them with me is like watching somebody's favorite movie with them. Like I can like say the commentary along with them and tell you what's about to happen and stuff, because I watched them so many times. But anyway, I also want to say what's up to I already showed the comment, but I want to say what's up to our guy Grateful Dude popping in here. Appreciate you being here, Grateful Dude. He's a guy that if you visit a lot of these live streams, you've probably seen Grateful Dude before. He's one of those guys who supports a lot of different content creators in this space and is always kind of commenting on videos and hanging out in the chat. So we appreciate you being here, Grateful Dude. I think that we might as well just go ahead and jump into this thing. What do you think, Christopher?
Sounds great to me. I'm ready to rock.
Hell yeah. As I always do, since you're the guest, I'm going to go ahead and give you the choice. We're going to start with our 2-leg parlay. Would you like to kick it off, or you want me to do it?
I'm going to defer. I feel like that's also a tradition here, so why not?
Yeah, it is. It is. I was going to say, so far, everybody has done that, yeah. And Christopher and I were talking about this earlier before the show, and I really struggled again this week. I've been saying this every week, but it's kind of, there's been a narrative in the community about what's been happening with the betting lines lately, that the lines are getting steamed in ways that we didn't used to see. And so the people that you're really confident in, you can't really put them in parlays because there's just no value in it. So you end up having to throw a few fighters right out the window. And then you end up having to go with lines that are going to be a bigger payout if they hit, but it's definitely a little trickier doing it this way. So, I'm feeling, a little bit dicey about the stuff I'm giving out here, and Christopher was saying the same thing. But we're gonna give you the best parlays that we can, and kind of try to talk through what we're thinking. But so for my 2-legger, first of all, I went with Andre Fili at -220. I think Joanderson Brito is a pretty decent fighter. I think he's going to come out really aggressively. He's going to be looking for the finish. He's going to be dangerous early. He is a guy who kind of drops off. It's not like he totally death gasses. He's still dangerous later in the fight too, but the most danger that he brings is really early in the fight. And I think, Fili's been there, done that. He's fought a lot of high-level fighters at this point in his career, and I think that he's probably going to be able to handle what Joanderson Brito comes with early, and I think he'll be able to take over later in the fight. And then the second leg of my 2-legger, people get on my case about always betting women's MMA, but I do it a lot, and I do pretty okay at it most of the time. But I went with Gina Mazzani at -175. I can understand people's concerns with Mazzani not being a terribly trustworthy fighter. We have seen her just death gas and kind of fall apart in the Priscilla Cachoeira fight. That's something that certainly can happen to her, but I think Shanna Young just represents a really good matchup for Gina Mazzani. I think she's going to be able to come out and get takedowns, and the ground control is going to be there for her all day. As long as she doesn't make a mistake and gas out, I think that she should be able to dominate this fight either to a decision or possibly even like a ground and pound finish, midway to like later into the fight. And so we've got Fili's at -220, Mazzani at -175, which puts us at +129 for the 2-legger. What are you thinking, Christopher?
That's awesome, man. I love that you got it right over the chalk, which is really important. I made sure to do that too, so I'm excited to get into that. I'm liking your picks, man. I was a little, I'm not gonna lie, a little nervous when I heard Mazzani, though. I feel like that was one of the dog shots I was potentially thinking about on this card. So, but hey, can't blame you. I agree. I think that's definitely the path for victory for her. But I don't know. That Fili fight's a little dicey for me too. So I respect it. I respect the gumption. I'll give you that. So let me get right into it, man. Why not?
Absolutely.
My first leg of this parlay, I thought about this long and hard, and you got to get your chalk up there early. So I got Gabe Green at -135. I think it's a dicey matchup, but I think it favors him, especially with his offensive process on the feet specifically. I love his aggression, so I'm excited to see this match. I feel like everything is sort of riding on this 2-leg part of it, and once we get into the 4 and 6, it frees up a little bit. But I feel like if these two hit, we're in the money, man. So I'm excited. My second leg is Gerald Mearshart. I'm going with the underdog at +145. I feel like this is one of the spots when I didn't look at the lines that I was actually pretty confident in. I really like Mearshart in this matchup. I think, even when Jocko's doing well, I feel like he doesn't tend to put himself in dominant positions in the way that whenever Mearshart's in trouble, I feel like it's against those guys that really come out hard and put you on the back foot early. I think he's going to be able to sort of cruise, find his way into the fight later on, and eventually find some success. So even though he's an underdog, I'm going with those 2 legs. It brings me up to plus 326 to start it off.
Man, you blew me out of the water there, numbers wise, in that first one. I like that. I'm actually not really going to comment too much on your picks in those first two, because let's just say I'll be talking about both of those fights later in the show, so I'm not going to comment about it now. But I want to say what's up to. We already mentioned Grateful Dudes in the house here. I also want to say what's up to Gabriel Huber and Daz Files, a couple other guys who are always really supportive. Those guys are always, commenting on my videos on YouTube and stuff. So we've got 3 of the like OG like dudes who are out there always supporting this community right here with us today. So that's pretty cool. Daz File says GM3 is cool. Always comes with a good game plan. Yeah, absolutely.
And on the feet and on the ground, I feel like everyone just assumes he's only a ground fighter. He really has underrated stand-up as well.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so I'm going to go right on to my 4-legger. So recapping again, I had Andre Feely minus 220, Gina Mazzani minus 175. I'm going to add in Grant Dawson at minus 180. We're going to be saying this for practically every fight on these, that these are, kind of dicey matchups, and it's hard to be super confident in them. But I think, I think both guys here, Dawson and Gordon, are both pretty gritty and pretty tough. And, I think they're both going to be looking to use kind of the same game plan on each other. I just think Dawson is probably the more powerful guy, probably the more physical guy. I think he's going to be the better wrestler. I like Dawson to be able to kind of implement his game plan a little more just with his physicality and with his skills. But Gordon's tough. Gordon's a dog. He has great cardio. So one concern is the possibility of Dawson going too hard and tiring himself out and Gordon taking over. But even if that were to happen, hopefully Dawson could bank 2 rounds before that happens. But yeah, I'm liking Grant Dawson at minus 180 there. And then another one that, again, it's a little dicey, but I'm leaning mostly on physicality again here too. I went with Natan Levy at minus 190. If you watched my full card breakdown video this week, I talked about how I had a hard time getting a read on some of these fights, and I had to cut my research a little bit short this week. So I felt like some of them I was just like didn't have great information to share. And this fight was a little bit that way. So for me, it kind of, since I didn't really feel like I had a strong read, it kind of came down to just largely the physicality and athleticism. I think Breeden is kind of slow. He's kind of flat-footed. Watching his tape, I didn't see a whole lot that I really was impressed with about him. Levy's not a world beater. He's not the greatest fighter in the world, but I just think he's going to be so much more athletic, so much probably stronger and more physical, probably quicker, that I think there's probably not a giant chasm between them skill-wise, but I feel like there's a pretty big chasm between them physicality and athleticism-wise, and I lean Levy for that reason. So those 4 together, I end up just barely better than what your 2-legger was. I end up at plus 443.
Nice, man. Nice. I can't comment too much because I'm going to be having some spoilers. But shout out to my man, Alex. Yes, sir. I'm actually from the Bronx. So every time I get a chance to represent, I make sure I throw on my Yankee hat. So let's go Yankees, and we'll move on. Our 4-leggers. So just to recap, I had Gerald Mearshart as well as Gabriel Green. And then I got Grant Dawson at minus 180 as well. I think it's hilarious. We got it right at the 3rd leg, both of us.
Yep.
I like the spot. I think this matchup's going to be fun to watch. I'm a fan of both guys, and I feel like where Jared Gordon has success later on in fights is sort of where Grant Dawson tends to drop off a little bit too. So may even want to consider a little bit of live betting if you're on the Jared Gordon side. But I'm excited to watch this fight. I think it's going to be a barn burner. But I think we'll end up on the right side of it. Next up, I got Andre Feely at minus 220. I started my night obviously super in the danger zone, but I feel like now I'm getting that chalk in where I can and still finding the value. So I really like you said, this spot specifically. I feel like this is probably the one I'm most confident in. Even though on the show I made the case for Joanderson Brito, I think it's only right that we go with Feely here. So I'm actually sitting at plus 1,006 now. So getting that number up high.
Yeah, that's looking good. I like that. I want to say hey to Alex as well. Thanks for popping in, Alex. He says, "Go Yankees!" Just started following from DFS's show. Enjoy your content. Appreciate that, Alex. We got 4 people in here right now. We got some. Yeah, appreciate the support from y'all. The way I look at it is like this. I'm a dude with like less than 200 followers on YouTube. I'm new to this whole game. Not a lot of people know who I am. If you're popping in here to watch my live show, you are a hardcore and a degen. So big ups to you. You wouldn't be here if you weren't. So, all right, let's move right on to that 6-legger. I had Feely at minus 220, Mazzani at minus 175, Dawson at minus 180, Natan Levy at minus 190. And then I think this is is this the first one where I'm going against you here? I've got Christoph Yatko at minus 175 in my 6-legger here. And yeah, I don't disagree with a lot of the points that you made. Like this one came down to, I ended up looking at, not only at the tape, but looking at the stats. And yeah, Daz Files just mentioned PFL. I've got PFL on the TV right up here. I'm trying not to look at it. I'm trying to be professional and do my show instead of watching the fights while I'm doing the show. But yeah, largely what it came down to for me here is Christoph Yatko has excellent takedown defense. He's like 83% on takedown defense or something like that. He had the last time he lost by submission was 2014 to Magnus Siedenblad. But like you mentioned, Christopher, it's not like Mearshart is sub or bust here. I mean, he's a more well-rounded fighter than people sometimes give him credit for. But I like Yatko to potentially be able to stop the takedowns and even on the feet. I think it's a fairly close fight there. Numbers wise, looking at their stats. The number of strikes that they attempt and the number of strikes that they land is pretty close. Yatko did have significantly better striking defense, so that was really the only area I could look to there. So yeah, this is one where, again, it's dicey and I'm not super confident, but I did go with Yatko at minus 175, and then I went with the one and only dog I decided to throw into my 6-legger, and this is a sad one to put out there, but I went with Tristan Connolly at minus 155. I did bet Connolly. So after I finished the tape on this fight, I was leaning Connolly slightly, 55, 60%, something like that. So when I saw him as an underdog, I bet it. He was at like plus 115. Now he's all the way up at like plus 155. So I actually put a little more on him, which I don't normally do, but especially when I'm not super, super confident, it's hard to be confident in this fight. But the reason that I like Connolly to potentially come through here is simply because if we think about it, and I'm going pretty narrative based here, but if we think about who Darren Elkins is as a fighter, he's often getting beat up pretty badly early in the fight. I mean, he's called the damage, not because he deals the damage, but because he takes the damage. He ends up being bloodied up and beaten up early in the fight. And then he ends up coming back to win when his opponent can't handle his pace, when his opponent breaks because they just can't keep up with him, and they just aren't as tough and gritty and as much of a dog as he is. The thing is, I think Tristan Connolly is another fighter who can survive and thrive in that tough, gritty, chaotic kind of fight. So I think that Elkins is going to be doing Elkins things. And I think Connolly could potentially move out to an early lead by being aggressive. And I don't know that Connolly is going to eventually go away and allow Elkins to take over. If Connolly is able to kind of be beating Elkins up early like we often see, I think he might be able to continue doing that for the entire 15 minutes. And Elkins is just never able to get himself all the way in there. So that's why I ended up throwing Connolly in there. And that puts me at plus 2,075, and I have a feeling, Christopher, that your 6-legger is going to be like twice that number, but let's hear it.
Almost, not quite, almost. No, I'm kidding. I actually really like that last spot that you just talked about. I kept it off my parlays because of how close it is. But I feel like if this was 3 years ago, I'm 100% picking Darren Elkins.
Yeah.
But because of the way he's looked lately, I agree with what Grateful Dude says there too. He's super durable, and in that matchup, it's not like Darren Elkins is going to put it on him. So great shout there. But let's get into it, baby. So just a quick recap: we got Gerald Mearshart at plus 145, Gabe Green minus 135, Grant Dawson minus 180, and Andre Feely minus 220. Now the last 2 legs, a little repeat, but I like it in this 6th spot because I feel like I'm a little more unsure. We got Natan Levy at minus 195. Really like that spot. And then this one is a little closer line-wise. So this is why I wanted to include it on the parlay. I feel like the value is there, and I couldn't really believe that he was only this short of a favorite. But it's heavyweight MMA, so I guess it makes sense. I'm going Andrei Arlovski at -150. I couldn't believe he wasn't closer to -180. I feel like this is definitely his fight to lose, stylistically especially. So I'm really excited. I think this could hit. Like as I'm looking at this, it's if Gerald Meerschaert's able to pull this off, I feel like the rest of the night I'm going to be able to take a deep breath. And I don't think it's going to work out that way with the bout order. But still, that's the fight that matters. But we're gonna make it happen. So our final 6-legger ends up being plus 2,333. So just a little bit over yours, but hoping it hits, baby.
Yeah. I thought you were definitely gonna get way over me there, but I guess you put your underdog in early and I put my underdog in late, so we ended up kind of close to each other there. Yeah, I like that. How many fights? How many picks did we have that went against each other? Was it just Yatko and Meerschaert?
Yep, that was
one.
Was
it, huh? Okay. So we can't both hit, but we can both come pretty close anyway.
Yep, and I like that it was in the 6s too. So
yep,
for you at least. Yep.
So yeah, there's our 6-leggers. Like I said last week, I did manage to hit the 2-leg and the 4-leg. Didn't quite hit the 6-leg, but maybe we can make it happen this time. For the second part of the show here on Big Money Bets, we move into our props section. And so the way this works, ahead of time, Christopher and I each go through the props. We pick out 6 prop bets that we like, but we're not talking about like, stuff like this guy to win by decision at plus 200 or something. We're talking about big money prop bets, crazy prop bets. So, what we do is we start with the one with the smallest payout, and we work our way up to the one with the biggest payout. And I actually started with one with a slightly smaller payout here. Usually I start up around plus 500, plus 600. I started a little bit smaller this time, but it's actually only because the one that I really wanted wasn't available. But I picked Johan Lainez by KO, which is at plus 325. What I wanted was Johan Lainez by KO in round 1. I wasn't able to find a book that had that. Maybe that's something that'll still drop. I don't know, because I think you'd probably get a pretty good number on that. But you can get Johan Lainez by KO at plus 325. And I want to be clear that I do like Gabe Green to win here. I do have a bet on Gabe Green, but if Johan Lainez is going to win, KO in round 1 is almost certainly how it's going to happen. If you look at his record, he has 8 professional wins. 6 of those are by KO. I don't remember how many are in the first round, but a lot of them are in the first round. So I would take that first round one if I could. But as far as a technical breakdown, I just don't think Johan Lainez is all that good. The footage that I watched on him, he's sort of reliant on finding that big punch. I think Gabe Green is just kind of the better fighter everywhere, has the better process. As the fight goes on, I think Gabe Green's going to take over. But Lainez has shown numerous times that he can find that early KO. So I went with Johan Lainez by KO at plus 325. I told Christopher before the show, because this is something that we've kind of ended up doing on sort of by accident, but it's become part of the show now, is that if you've got another prop on that same fight, you can kind of throw it in as a bonus. So we're only supposed to have 6, but I'm going to end up with 7 here, because another one that I wanted to throw out there, because like I said, I do actually like Gabe Green to win this fight. Another one I found was Gabe Green wins in round 3 at plus 1125. Because I do think Lainez does slow down quite a bit. He's shown that he can still be dangerous later in the fight too. He has gotten finishes that are outside of the first round, but he does slow down a lot. And I think Gabe Green is going to bring a pace on him. And I could see him finding that late finish. So Gabe Green in round 3 plus 1125 is another bonus one I wanted to throw out there. All right, you're up, Christopher.
Man, you love the extra credit plays. I just got to say, yeah. Especially that high up. That's awesome. So this one, I wanted to make sure I came out the gate strong. Okay. I was looking at these lines, and there was a couple that I saw around plus 500 that I liked. And I was like, you know what? I got to start off right. So I'm going to give you the odds first, and then I'm going to give you the little breakdown. It's sitting at plus 700. So here's the idea here. We're going to that Tristan Connolly versus Darren Elkins matchup. I'm really interested to see how Tristan Connolly comes shape-wise. I feel like when he first debuted in the UFC, it was on short notice, so we didn't really see fully how he'll be looking in that division. And when he came back in his second bout, he looked absolutely shredded. So I'm hoping I'm hoping on that side of things for this matchup. And if we are, I feel like my chances of hitting this go even higher. But Tristan Connolly has 14 wins. 8 of those wins are by submission. Now, Darren Elkins has never been submitted, if I'm correct. But the reason why I like this spot is because, like I said, the method is there as far as his wins. And 2, I think at some point he's going to hurt Darren Elkins on the feet. And if that happens, I feel like just based on his power historically, that Tristan Connolly, that is, I assume they end up in some sort of scramble, and he could end up sort of attacking a neck. And his resume says he could get those. So I know it's dicey to ever pick anyone to submit Darren Elkins or have success in grappling even. But I think it'll come off of stunning him. So I'm going with Tristan Connolly wins by submission at plus 700.
Dude, I love it. So the way that I picked my 6 props for the show today, or the way I always do it really, is I go through and I grab a bunch of props that I kind of like, and then I look up the numbers for them and I put them in order, and then I pick my 6 favorite ones, and then I drag the other ones down to the bottom. I have Tristan Connolly by sub plus 700. It was on my list. It didn't make my 6, but it's in my 7, 8, and 9 that I didn't use. So yeah, I had that one on there. I like it. All right. Moving on to number 2, and man, I'm still numbers wise going to be well below your number 1 when I'm on my number 2 here. But my breakdown as far as this one, this is a fight that does not even require a breakdown. For pretty much every breakdown video, it's like, so we're talking about Romanov versus Chase Sherman. Why even bother giving a breakdown for this fight? Nobody's really doing it. Like, what can you say about this fight, right? The numbers are the way they are for a reason. You can't really bet Romanov. And I was looking at some Chase Sherman props. Dude, you can get Chase Sherman wins in round 3 at plus 6,500. That's draw numbers. That's not the bet I'm giving out here, but I was looking, trying to figure out, is there a way that I can find a prop on this fight that actually works? So this is what I went with. You can get this anywhere from plus 475 to plus 550, depending upon what book you're on. It's plus 475 on DraftKings, which I know a lot of people use. Hold on, my computer's trying to update my, okay. Anyway, it's plus 475 on DraftKings. I'm looking at Alexander Romanov wins in round 2. You know, I think a lot of people are thinking that Romanov is going to come out and win in round 1. He might very well do that. But my entire breakdown for this bet is this: Jared Vandera and Roque Martinez survived until round 2. Maybe Chase Sherman can too. That's all I got for you. What's up, Christopher?
I like that a lot, man.
Maybe Chase
I like
Sherman
that a lot. It is so hard to find value in that fight. So the fact that you were able to find that, that's a gem. And especially for round 2, I agree. I think that's something that we've seen before. So why not? But I'll move on because I'm going to be talking about that fight a little bit later too. So this one is at plus 800. And my breakdown of this one starts here, man. Marlon Vera. So he has 18 wins, and 8 of those are by submission, 7 of them by TKO. But his last submission was in 2019. So it's been a while. I would argue he's due. Rob Font has lost 5 times in his career, and one of them was by submission in the UFC. I'm going to put you on the spot here. Can you give me a name on who you could think was the person that submitted Rob Font in the UFC? You're muted.
No, honestly, I don't. I have no idea.
Oh man, I was hoping you'd give me a name. Anyone in the chat before I drop it? Anyone in the chat could give me a name on who they think was the one that submitted Rob Font. I'm gonna drop it. I don't care. It was Pedro Munoz in 2017 with the guillotine.
Oh yeah, I never would have thought of that.
Yep. So the reason why I don't think it's gonna be a guillotine if it happens, but I'm going Marlon Vera wins by submission at plus 800. I think he in 3-round fights is close to 1.5 submissions attempted. So I that's the reason why I'm really liking this bet. I feel like he might end up in a situation similar to the Frankie fight where he ends up hurting Rob Font on the feet. And following up wise, I think in a matchup that's a little bit more close, I'm going to argue for this though. I think Marlon Vera has been in sort of a heel turn. He's been really making it a point to sort of beat the shit out of people. Let's be frank. But in this matchup, because I think the win is so much more important against someone ranked this high, I think he ends up following up and trying to wrap up a submission and getting it. So plus 800, let's do it, baby.
Dude, I love that. I love that. You're killing it on these props. Are you a prop guy normally, Christopher, or not really?
I'm going to be honest. This is the first time I'm getting into it. And I think from now on, I'm going to be, why not? Just throw $2 on these things. And if they hit,
Yeah.
you're getting some great money back. So,
yeah, that's what I do. I literally put a couple bucks on some of these sometimes. And I've hit a few here and there, but that's all it's going to be is you hit a few here and there, but it's fun. Yeah. I just see these as bets that, like, obviously, like I said, you're looking at a bunch of not smart bets and you're trying to see if there's a few that are like a little bit smart, but yeah, obviously they're real low percentage. Moving on to my third, we were on the third one, right? Yeah, it looks that way. My third one is plus 800. I'm looking at Gina Mazzani wins in round 2. I don't really have a particular reason to pick round 2 here. I was first looking at round 3 just because obviously it's the bigger payout. That was like plus 1,200 or something like that. But then I'm like, okay, well, Gina Mazzani does tend to kind of tire and slow down. So, like, is she going to be too tired to potentially find a finish in round 3? But I don't have a particularly good reason to pick round 2, except that Shanna Young lost, I think it was her last fight, to Stephanie Egger by GNP stoppage in round 2. So I do think there's a decent chance that Mazzani could find a ground and pound stoppage here. And, why not round 2, and Mazzani does have some ground and pound stoppages on her record. I think it was her last win, Rachel Ostovich. She stopped her at almost the end of the fight, just a few seconds left in round 3. And she's got a few other ground and pound stoppages. So, and I do, like I said, I think Mazzani is probably going to be able to find the takedowns and get the control time here. And maybe she's able to go Donkey Kong and land some hammer fists and get a stoppage in round 2. And if she does, I pocket that plus 800 if I actually bet it. I don't always bet all these, but sometimes I do.
I feel like that's surprisingly a low number, honestly, for round 2. That's interesting. But I like that you're all in on Gina Mazzani this week, man. That's awesome. So next up, this one is dicey. I'm not gonna lie, but I like it. I like it. The value's there. So it's sitting at plus 1,200. So GM3, you already know who I'm picking in that matchup. He has 34 wins. 4 of them took place in the third round. Now, he gets a big rep on third rounds because a lot of these happen in the UFC. So it was in prime time. 3 of them are submissions. 1 of them was a TKO. Random side thing. I can't wait to stump you again, but I'm going to force you this time. You got to give me a middleweight. I don't care who you say. Just give me a middleweight. There is 1 round 5 submission on GM3's record. It was outside of the UFC, but against someone who is a UFC staple. Please tell me who you think that is, Erik.
Jeez, I have no idea. Against somebody who's a UFC staple. And for some reason, the first person that popped into my head was Talis Latis. I have no idea, and that's not the right answer.
Ooh.
Against somebody who is a UFC staple. God, I don't know. And it was a round 5. So, okay, so it must have been for a title in another organization or something. If there were 5 rounds,
a regional organization, I'll give you that.
Yeah. God damn, I don't know. Can you give me another hint or something?
I feel like if I give you a hint, it'll be so obvious. But lately, a lot of people have been calling for him to get the axe. Let's say.
Damn,
middleweight,
I don't know.
185.
Not Alvey because he's already gone. God, I don't know.
I'm gonna give it to you. It's Sam Alvey, baby. It's Sam Alvey. So
it was.
Is he actually cut? Yeah, it is. It is. Nice.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so
maybe
glad.
Maybe he's not. I'm actually not entirely sure.
I think he's still in the UFC. That's why.
Well, shit. I kind of got that then.
Yes, awesome, man. And the reason why I threw this in there is because this is a 3-round fight. So 5 times in his career he's gotten a last round finish, whether it's a submission or a TKO. So why not go for the shot, baby? And this includes KO, TKO, submission, and DQ on this book, which I think is important to note, because the way that these events have been going down lately, there's been a lot of fouls the last 2 weeks. One of them that actually led to a DQ, and I'm so happy that we're actually seeing that now, because usually they just ignore those things and say you got a warning, but I thought we had warnings in the back. Anyway, GM3 round 3 plus 1,200.
I love it. I love it. I actually I hit GM3 by sub in round 3 in his last fight with Dustin Stoltzfus. I had like 0.2 units on that, and that hit, so that was pretty rad. Yeah, so I think, yeah, when you've got Gerald Meerschaert in there, some kind of sprinkle on like a late finish like that or a late sub is almost like an auto bet for me at this point. You almost gotta, especially since it's come through for me before, you almost gotta go for it. All right, so my fourth one, and I'm picking a guy that I don't even think is going to win the fight, but that's how it goes sometimes on these props. You're looking for that value, and part of the reason I picked this one is simply because I use the William Hill book a lot, and William Hill is not one of the books that's listed on best fight odds. And you know how on best fight odds it highlights the best odds that you can find, and a lot of times William Hill has better odds than any of the books listed on best fight odds, and that happened today. And I think the props for this event just dropped on William Hill today, so they haven't been like messed up or steamed or anything yet. So I picked Joanderson Brito by sub, which I think on best fight odds, the best you can get it for on any of the books listed on there is plus 800 on Bet Online. It's sitting at plus 1400 on William Hill right now, which is just such a huge difference that I was like, I got to throw that out there. But because, like I said, I do like Feely to win this fight, but we also, we know who Joanderson Brito is. We know he's going to come out aggressively. He has a lot of wins by knockout, and he has a lot of wins by sub. He's going to be, looking potentially for a club and sub, even if they get into some ground scrambles and that sort of thing. Brito's a guy who can find the back. Most of his sub wins are either guillotines or rear naked chokes. He has finished a lot. He subbed a lot of opponents in his pre-UFC career against like lower level fighters. I don't think it's super likely that he's able to do that against Feely, but plus 1400 to not even pick around, plus 1400 for Brito to win by submission, period, just seems like a pretty crazy number. So I had to throw that one out there.
I like it. I like it a lot, man. It's so funny that your pick in this spot is plus 1400, and it's someone that you talked about how they probably have no chance of winning, because that's exactly my next spot too. I don't have much numbers and analysis on this besides why the fuck I'm picking it. We got Chase Sherman by KO, TKO, submission, but most importantly, DQ. Now, that's the reason why I'm making this bet. It's not because of any of those first three. It's because of the DQ chance. I think the fact that this could happen in any round. Romanov's fights have been dicey. There's been eye pokes. There's been nut shots. So why not? Why not throw on Chase Sherman, where he's such a big underdog? Plus 1400. Hey, it's heavyweight MMA. Something crazy could happen. Why not? I'm not touching Romanov's side of things. So why not? This is one of the plays, though, that I'm actually not sprinkling on at all. It's this one and the Connolly by submission, but Chase Sherman plus 1400.
Plus 1400. All right. Yeah, I like that. The fact that you thought about the possibility of a DQ, because yeah, like I said, I was looking at the Chase Sherman, like you can get Chase Sherman wins in round 3 at plus 6,500. That's just crazy. Like, obviously that, that number is probably accurate, but the reason I was looking at that sort of thing, and this isn't what I'm giving out as one of my actual picks, but the reason I was looking at that is, just trying to figure out how are all the different ways that this can play out. We see certain fights sometimes, like Alex Pereira and Bruno Silva, I think it was, where the fight to go to decision was at like plus 600 or something crazy, and everybody was like, oh, there's no way that happens, and it did.
Yep.
Like, this is one of those fights where people are like, there's no way that can go to decision. I mean, it's two big heavyweights who could potentially tire out and end up leaning on each other. And I mean, we see stuff like that happen all the time, and like we've seen Romanov tire out. We've seen, now I'm not trying to talk myself into this bet, but you know what I mean? I'm like, anyway, not picking that one. So I'm going to go on to the one I actually am picking.
But it makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, so my fifth one here, and this is great because we've already talked about this at length. I don't even really have to give any discussion on this one. I went with Jared Mearshart wins by sub in round 3 plus 2,000. So I just went, one more specific than you. You were looking at, I think that just for him to win in round 3 period at plus 1,200. I went with wins by sub in round 3 at plus 2. It's at plus 2,000 on FanDuel. Yeah, we already kind of talked about that. Like I said, I hit him by sub in round 3 in his last fight. So why not go back to the well and see if we can do it again?
Awesome, man. Awesome. You beat me out. Your biggest one was bigger than mine, but I lied. I still got one more. And given the fact that it gets that high, I'm pretty sure we already know it's a draw. But my one right before the draw, I think you have a chance at going 2-3 in trivia, my friend. Andrei Arlovsky is the focus of this one. His last submission victory took place at UFC 51 in 2005. Can you give me a guess on who you think his opponent was that night?
It was 2005. Trying to remember.
51.
He didn't sub Tim Sylvia, did he?
Yes, he did. Let's fucking go.
Okay.
Let's go.
They fought twice right in a row, I think. I'm trying to remember how that all played out. But yeah,
I think he lost when they fought twice in a row. I think they fought 3 times.
They did. Yep, they did. And what was it? Wasn't it a leg lock of some kind or something?
Yep,
I'm trying to remember. Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, I remember watching that fight. I watched it at Buffalo Wild Wings in Fargo, but yeah, I couldn't remember how it played out exactly. But
shout out to B-Dubs, man. That garlic parmesan is just anyway.
Dude, I used to live at Buffalo Wild Wings, so I used to be there every week to watch the fights. All these big, these huge like movie-sized UFC posters. You can only see one, but they're all over in this room. I stole those from Buffalo Wild Wings back in the day. I would always ask the manager, "Hey, can I have one of those posters?" And they'd give them to me. So I have a whole bunch of those.
That is so dope. I thought you like bought them. That's sick. Yeah, B-Dubs is awesome, man. Not a lot of places around me in general have the fights, and they always have it. So anyway, let's finish it up. Yep. Arlovsky by sub, baby. Only 3 of his 33 wins were by sub. But I think there's no chance that Collier wins this fight. So why not sprinkle for plus 1,600?
Plus 1,600. I like
and
that.
Any round. There's no round prop. Plus 1,600 for a sub. I'll take it.
Is that your last one, or did you have one more?
I got one more. Do you have one more, or you're good?
I do. Yep. So yeah, and I kind of heard you tip your hand a little bit there, and I'm gonna it's kind of like the stemmed glasses at this point. It's almost like a tradition how we have to end the show with the big prop. I wonder if we picked the same fight. We're about to find out. I went with a draw in the Mazzani Young fight at plus 6,600. Here's my potential path to that happening. It's the same as I bet the draw. I sprinkled a little bit on the draw in Sarah McMahon versus Carol Hossa. It's the same sort of idea here. I think Mazzani's going to have success with her wrestling, like I said. So here's how it plays out. Mazzani comes out, wins round 1, 10-9. Mazzani wins round 2, 10-9. And then she's gassed out in round 3. Young's not quite able to get the finish, but she dominates the round for a 10-8. And then we go to a draw, baby. Boom, there it is.
I love it. I love that we both got a draw too. But your number beat mine, man. I'm devastated. I'm at plus 6,500. So you just got me. Now, I just got to start the story by saying this. If you ever check out my show, take a look at my logo. You're probably not going to be able to tell who it is, but there's a fighter on there. And it's Darren Elkins. And it's after that 3rd round against Mirsad Bektic. That primal scream gives me goosebumps every time I see that clip. But the reason why I'm picking this draw between Tristan Connolly and Darren Elkins is Connolly's durable. He's going to be there early, and I think he's going to be touching up Darren Elkins in that early part of it as well. 2nd round is when Elkins starts grappling, usually. So I'm hoping that it's still a close round, but Connolly edges it out. And then 3rd round is when Darren Elkins comes alive, especially if he's able to survive those first 2. And I think in this matchup, definitely Connolly doesn't have world beater power. So I really could see a scenario where he's piecing him up in the first 2. Third round comes around, and Elkins, as we know him, just comes forward, bleeding out of both eyes, and puts it on Connolly and evens it up, baby. So that's my draw: Tristan Connolly, Darren Elkins, plus 6,500.
There it is. I love it. Now, like every guest I bring on in the future, they're going to be like, it's like an unwritten thing. I have to have a stem on my glass, and I got to pick a draw for the last one. That's just how it goes. This is a little piece of trivia that I just thought of, that you mentioned that your logo is Elkins and Mirsad Bektic, you said.
Yeah.
This is just something that I remember hearing years ago. You know the Bloody Elbow logo, the logo from the website Bloody Elbow. Do you know who that is?
No, I don't.
The elbow. It's Josh Neer. I don't know why I remember that. I just remember hearing that a long time ago, that the Bloody Elbow logo is apparently Josh Neer. I don't know what fight it's from or anything like that, but I love trivia, so I had to throw that one out there.
Hell yeah, that's a deep cut right there.
Well, damn, I'm gonna have to go back through. Well, either that or I'll ask you before the next episode, because I wanna, if I do little recaps, especially like if you hit any of these big props or anything, make sure to let me know, because that way I can mention it on the recap next time. Otherwise, I'm just gonna have to go back and watch and write them down. But maybe I'll do that. But awesome, yeah, we still got 4 viewers in here. I really appreciate you guys. Bruce, Grateful Dude, Daz, Alex, who did I miss? Gabriel Huber. Appreciate all you guys popping in here. Like I said, if you're coming in and watching this show, you are a true hardcore, a true diehard, and a true degen, and we appreciate you very much. If any of y'all didn't watch my full card breakdown, I'm just going to throw this out there because it's something I was thinking about a lot today. For anybody who's watching this video right now, any of you guys in the chat or anything like that, I want you to do me a favor. If you're in the chat, go do it right now. If you're watching the video later, pause it and go do this. I want you to go to the YouTube page or the Twitter or whatever of your favorite content creator and just leave them a nice compliment. Just tell them that you appreciate what they do. Because I was just thinking this week about how I was like behind on a lot of my stuff, and I was just thinking about how, like, it's almost like you're taking on a second job when you become a content creator. You know what I'm talking about, Chris? You do like three shows a week, right? It's like you end up taking on a lot, and it's a lot of work, and it's tough to keep up, and there's people out there doing that. And I want you to just go out and let one of your favorite content creators know that you appreciate what they do, as a personal favor to me.
Spread the love, baby. And real quick, I just want to say double shout out to Gabe Huber coming in with the live show follow on Twitter. So thank you, man. I appreciate that. And I was already following you, so it's only right.
Nice. Why don't you, unless you got anything else you want to add, Chris, I think we'll go ahead and close up shop. Why don't you go ahead and just give us the rundown of kind of where we can find you and what you've got going on from week to week and that sort of thing.
For sure. So you could catch me on wherever you could get your podcasts, on the MMA Archive, but as well as the Sideline Guys. This is a show based on all other types of sports. We do betting talk on there too, so make sure to check it out. We focus really more so on the NBA and the NFL, and just current news every week. We talk about MMA on there too. So we got it all on the Sideline Guys, baby, and you could check that out on OTS Media. You can find us on all platforms at OTS Media Co., but on YouTube at OTS Media. So many different podcasts. We got a Warriors podcast that drops every week. We got a whole bunch of different sports stuff. We got a film podcast that drops every week, music. We got it all. So please check out OTS Media and make sure that you give us a follow there, even more so than my stuff. Go to OTS Media. We've been lucky enough to have our first sponsor as well. So shout out to Champs Underwear. You could get that link in my bio as well to get yourself a little discount on your Champs Underwear. But finally, before I wrap up, make sure you check me out at NegronMMA on Twitter, as well as Chris Negron _. I'm at 288 followers. We're almost there, baby. Almost at 300. And it's been such a quick climb. So I really appreciate all the support. Thank you so much, Erik, for having me on. This was a damn blast. And I put money on this, baby. I got $50 I'm never trying to see again. I will definitely let you know if I hit on anything, man. Appreciate it.
I love it, Christopher. Thanks so much for being here. And I did put Christopher's links in the description for the video too. I think I've got his Twitter, and I think I've got OTS Media's YouTube, and whatever else I put down there. So yeah, you can definitely use those links down there. And of course, most of you who are watching probably know me already, but I am Erik with Erik Bets Fights. You can find me at Erik Bets Fights on Twitter, Erik_Bets_Fights on Instagram. Obviously right here on YouTube. Please like and subscribe if you haven't yet. Also, I made a link tree. If you know what link tree is, I just made one of those the other day, and I put that in my Twitter bio. Because one thing I've been working on lately is I made an online store. I designed, there's some Erik Bets Fights like branded stuff in there, but I also just made a bunch of just kind of goofy, fun stuff. Like, you know how I open every video by saying, fight nerds and dirty gamblers. I made a shirt that says fight nerds and dirty gamblers are my people, and just kind of threw some just some cool like fight nerd gear out there at the Erik Betts Fights online store, so you can find that in my link tree as well. But again, thanks to all of you for being here. I really appreciate everyone who checks out these videos, checks out what I do. Make sure you go check out Christopher. Make sure you find me also on Saturday, every fight day, 1 hour before the first fight kicks off on the DFS by the Numbers YouTube channel. Myself, Brady from DFS by the Numbers, Uncle Weezy, and Narco Cop. We go through the entire card. We each drop our favorite bet for each fight, and the show ends right as the first prelim kicks off. So it's the last stop to come get some DGen action in. We close up shop, the fights start, boom, we're off like that. So you can find me there every Saturday. Thank you so much for being here, everybody, and have a great night. I'm not going to end with the part where I tell you to play it smart and play it tight, because that's not how we do it on Big Bunny Bets. Enjoy the fights this weekend, everybody, and take care.
Let it fly, baby.
Yeah.